Hello.
Okay, so here we are recording again in the same clothes.
Casey, I forgot.
Yeah, we could have run and changed. We just took a 2-minute break. And we're going to do another show because we need to get to Nancy's 10 ingredients for creating change. Is that what you call them? The 10 ingredients for creating change?
Exactly. And Casey, by the way, I just wrote the synopsis for the one we just recorded, and the show title is A Small Lesson in Patience.
Yeah. And if they could have only seen the whole show, which was, before my chickens freaked out, which was trying to get our audio set. Oh, my Lord. But that's all right. We're good.
Oh, man. I want to try to keep that. If they could have only seen the whole show, Casey, let me write that down because I will add that to it.
That would have been really therapeutic, right?
Yeah. Okay. Have only seen the whole show. That's great because I made it a brief synopsis. All right. Listeners, I think it's really clear. Kacey and I can settle into super deep, real conversations, but also we aren't trying to be super edited here. So you get to see us stumbling and bumbling and regrouping. And
yeah. Because, we all stumble and bumble. It's the regrouping part that matters. Right?
Yes, heaven help us to regroup. I mean, Kacey, I am not perfect at this. I mean, there are times where I don't want to regroup. And, I want to keep stumbling and bumbling. And I'm like, hello. And that takes us to ingredients of change. Can I jump in on that?
Please.
Okay. We have covered stumbling and bumbling. We have covered awareness, willingness, intentionality, self-education, meaning understand me more. What's going on with me, skill building, technology being a recent example, self-regard, loving and being kind enough to myself to do this. Okay, now we're to 7 and 8. 7 is about being with myself in the moment where I'm paying attention to, am I stumbling and bumbling? Am I getting all wound up? I'll just keep using it. Being with myself in the moment is the language. That's how it's written. Okay. And so am I getting irritated? Is my tone getting irritated? Am I people trying to help and I'm dismissing them? I want to notice what's going on within me because I'll bring in the next one real quick, right on it. Because I want to notice. And then number 8 is intervene on my own behalf. I want to say, oh, so I can keep stumbling and bumbling here and be out of sorts. Or I can, this is the moment, and intervene on my own behalf is a really big phrase for me. Or in that moment, I can say, wait a minute, this is where I'm trying to change. I don't want to stumble and bumble all the time. Create an argument between myself and maybe someone else because I'm all upset. This is a moment I want to remember I'm working on whatever it is. And it may be to pause. It may be to regroup. Let's just keep playing with those words. It may be that I know, oh, this is a moment I need to stop for a few moments and walk into another room, do another little something, give myself some mental and physical space to regroup. And it's amazing how then we can figure out a problem we couldn't before, or then we hear something we didn't hear, or we understand something someone was saying and we didn't. But intervene on my own behalf. I can talk more about that, but let me be quiet, jump in. Yeah.
What I want to say is I often notice myself doing the wrong thing, and that has to be okay too. Like when I get flustered with technology, with my husband, we have all this banking and all these different apps and all these different passwords, and when I get frustrated, I yell.
Yes.
But he knows my yelling is just my cultural experience, what I learned, from my ancestors. So he knows it's not charged. He knows
Right.
that I turn up the volume, but I'm not hurting anyone. I can notice in that moment I'm being very loud, I'm losing it right now, but I can't always change.
Right.
I mean, so
Right.
I can notice it like, oh crap, I am doing this again, and screw it, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'll fix it next time.
Right, right. And so it's our awareness, when you are that aware, that gives us, I would say, the choice. And that's an important word. We can keep doing it. It gives us the choice to not, for whatever reason, whatever would motivate us to make that change. I mean, yeah, one of the things that motivates me to notice myself in the moment and to intervene on my own behalf is that I actually don't want to get in an argument or have a bad energy between myself and somebody else, because when the problem is solved, that bad energy is still there, or can be. And then I have that to clean up,
Right.
mainly because I've stirred it in some way. I've said something that's not useful or helpful, or and so that sometimes is a motivator to help me intervene. Also, so I say somewhere in the book too, Kacey, until I started in recovery in the 90s, I don't think I really knew what internal serenity felt like. What it really felt like to have the waters calm. We keep using that word, but that's what it felt like. It wasn't like I lived in turmoil or agitation, but I certainly didn't know what calm and still felt like. And I do now know what that is. And I say in it, that's also what helps me to intervene on my own behalf. It's like when you sit down at dinner tonight, it would be nice if we're still friends. It would be nice if we could be calm and, I could feel calm and still and glad to be together.
Yeah. I want to talk about calm for a second. Having been someone who meditates and someone who does yoga and all of those things, the chanting, the hiking, you name it, the labyrinth walking. Sometimes you'll do a 45-minute practice of any of those things.
Okay.
To get 45 seconds of calm.
Okay, Kacey. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
mm-hmm.
Calm. I don't know. We're probably born with it, but it gets twisted out of us somehow. But calm is a neural pathway that takes some work sometimes.
You just named it. You just said the whole encyclopedia of it, of what we understand and know. And first, I hear and honor what you're saying about a whole 45-minute practice. Did you say to get 45 seconds?
45 seconds. And I'm stealing someone's line. Somebody said that coming out of a yoga class.
Okay.
A guy said, it takes me sometimes 45 minutes to get 45 seconds of calm. And that was probably 20 years ago. He said that.
Right.
I loved
right.
it, and it stayed with me because it's so true. Like when we sit down to meditate, or when we embark on anything, it may take a while till you feel what you want to feel, but calm is super delicious when you finally get there. And you might only get a glimpse of it.
Right.
You might only get a glimpse of it, but it'll give you that wonderful incentive to go look for more soon.
And that's why I brought it in. For me, it has been an incentive as well. Absolutely. And so I know I quoted Jon Kabat-Zinn in our show just now on a small lesson in patience. Another attitudinal foundation of his for mindfulness practices is non-striving. So let me talk, but I'll talk about that a second in light of, and the neuroscience and trauma folks, we all understand we cannot make ourselves be calm. We can only create the conditions that could bring it on and participate in them, and then our body and the emotional centers of our brain will respond to it. But again, Kabat-Zinn doesn't say all of that. He just says it's important in our practice to not have, I've got to get calm. I've got to have insight. I've got to anything. When I just sit down on the chair on my porch for a minute in between things and feel my feet and feel my back against the chair and find my breath, that's all I am asking myself to do. I am not trying to relax, because we can't, the example he gives is we can't make ourselves fall asleep. We cannot make ourselves fall asleep. I mean, I know a long list of people who wish they could make themselves fall asleep. We can only provide the conditions. So calm is the same way.
Right. Yeah. My husband has said to me a million times, calm down. I never did. That never works, honey. Telling me to calm down when I can't find the password to your freaking bank app.
So again, because parents are going to jump listening here, we ask children to calm down too. And I think that what we want to do is promote an environment, I'm not going to shout, but calm down is not
exactly right.
Wrong direction.
Yes, we're going in the wrong direction. You're driving the bus off the cliff when you're screaming at a kid to calm down. It would be better to say, take a deep breath, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, let's just be right here. Okay, now let me listen. What is it? What is it? And the parent has to, here comes patience again in the door. We just say, because we are trying to promote an environment that, and see, I naturally inhaled a deep inhale there and exhale that helps us to access the amygdala, the center, which is deep in the brain, the emotional center of it, that all of the thinking in the world in that moment we have to create the environment that won't just help us calm down. It's not a switch. Mm-hmm. It's a practice. It's practice, and we want to move it through some body breath things to help get there.
Noticing ourselves in the moment.
Right. Yes.
Means
paying attention,
having that presence of mind, and even having a calmness of spirit, because if there's not some element of calm, you're not going to notice yourself in the moment. Right.
And often, Kacey, I mean, we do lose track of ourselves. I mean, people will say to me about this, well, that's a lot of work. Well, it is. The noticing self and being with self in the moment. I mean, we don't walk around really paying attention to how we sound and how many times we've said something. Gosh, we could talk about that one. How many times we've repeated ourselves. We just want to notice those things, but we don't. And I will say to folks talking to me, well, in that moment, did you remember, that you were going to work on only saying things twice? And they were like, nope.
Right. But think about all the things we don't have to think about, right?
Right, exactly.
Think about blinking, seeing, hearing, breathing, digesting, walking. There's so many things we don't have to think about, which I think makes us go, what the heck, when we have to give so much thought to creating change.
Yes.
So much thought.
Awareness, thought, and I'm going to broaden it because
awareness, you're right.
Well, no, that's okay. It is thought. it does reside there. And then the noticing self is an extension of number one, which is that awareness. So this is a problem. The noticing self is bringing it into everyday life. It is bringing it into my awareness as I was stumbling with my AirPods earlier today, as you and I were working. It's like, okay, be aware of, be aware of myself. I wanted to be aware of you as well. This awareness isn't totally selfish, because there is awareness of somebody else's time and somebody else's patience, but do not let it slip completely that way. Just keep a real activeness in self. Kacey, I really want to comment a little more on the one to intervene on your own behalf. That has been with me in recovery and addiction studies. Intervention is a really common word. If a person has, usually if they have a substance addiction, it's not unusual to do an intervention. And you've done so many interviews, maybe you've interviewed people who do interventions. And for our listeners, that's where the family and friends or friends get together with usually the help of a professional. And they have the person with the addiction with them, and they share their concerns and have a plan of what they want that person to do to get help. It's an intervention. Well, heck, there's a whole TV show on it, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, no. Okay.
I would watch that though.
But intervention, yeah. But here's where I picked up the word. Often with those of us who are on the codependent side of things, on the over-functioning for others, under-functioning for self side of things, most people don't do interventions on us. They don't gather around me and say, Nancy, we're concerned about this and this and this. Okay. I have to cultivate the ability to intervene on my own behalf. And that's how come the phrase is. I can have been in counseling. I could have been in a meeting. I could have been helped by a friend. But in that moment, I'm probably on my own. And I need to decide, am I going to work on what I was going to change or not?
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from.
Yeah. And it's funny, I've been watching on Netflix this silly, ridiculously silly but wonderful series called Cobra Kai. And it's you've heard of the Karate Kid movies? Remember Wax On, Wax Off? It's that whole cast from all those movies 30 years later.
Wow. Okay.
And it's adorable. But Ralph Macchio, who was the Karate Kid, is now training his daughter to do karate.
Okay.
And, she had gotten beaten up a couple of times. And he said to her, in that moment, I can teach you all of this, but in that moment, you decide if you're going to get up and continue fighting. And it was like, wow, because it really is. In that moment, it's up to us to gather all of whatever we got and intervene on our own behalf. Stop the cycle. And you're not going to get it the first time or the second or the third time. But if you keep trying, the time will come where it's up to you to get up off the mat and fix it.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
Kacey, that's it. 100%.
The wisdom of the Karate Kid. Let me tell you, you have to intervene.
Well, now we'll see. I think it's a comment on how the lessons that I know and you know and we speak of, they're in many forms around us. Mm-hmm. They're on Netflix. We can be sitting there watching a show that isn't a documentary, and it's not a how-to webinar or even a TED Talk. Mm-hmm. It's in the way they're interacting and the lessons that they've learned and are living out. It's great.
Yeah.
And I do, and I'm far from the only one saying this. I think many of these lessons, we're all saying very similar things about change and how to access healthiness.
Right. And I think you referenced either in this show or a recent show about a client who came to you wanting wizardry.
Right. Well, that was in the patience one. Yes, yes.
And I too work with women, and there are some women who I've had to say, I'm sorry, I can't work with you because my process is going to take a long time, and you're looking for a magic bullet. I don't have the wand, I don't have the pill. But if you, promise you, if you do these things and practices with me, we're going to get somewhere, you know? But really, it comes down to us making the personal change. So I just want to say your ingredients are awareness, willingness, intentionality, self-education, skill building, self-regard, noticing self in the moment, and now we're up to intervening on your own behalf. And actually from here, the final 2 items get a little easier, I think.
Yes.
I think the 2, spirituality and letting go, I find less resistance there. Let me put it that way. For me, I offer less resistance in those 2 categories. Plenty of resistance in many of the other categories, though.
Yeah, I think that's your recovery speaking, though, Kacey. I think that if we haven't worked our way into some of what we've talked about, the notion of letting go is really confusing, and people do meet it with resistance. I mean, if attack, what do I mean by that? I mean, if we want to continue, if we believe that we have to keep pursuing something or repeating ourselves is their style, I think the letting go can be challenging. I mean, and so what are we letting go of? We're letting go, it's a serenity prayer. We're letting go of what we do not have control over. And we are putting our energy into what we can control. And here comes the word, what we can change, right? I think that I'm really glad they are delicious, aren't they? Don't they make you feel access your calm?
Absolutely.
Because they do for me. I'm not doing your stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. But we'll do the next show about spirituality and letting go. Yes.
That sounds really fine to me, where we can expand our examples, and because they're sort of the icing on the cake.
And I have a lot to say about the icing on the cake.
Good.
So we're good. I'll see you next week.
Kacey, you absolutely will. It's great. Bye, everybody. See you again.